All right, so we'll go ahead and get restarted here. This is kind of a cycle that we see every year, and you'll see a little flow of pollen sometimes in mid-February and a little bit of nectar. And anybody know what that usually is right there? Maples, yeah. So that starts your colony growth. And then when you get to mid-March, things start popping really good, and bam, it goes way up. And so your resources coming in cause this to happen. Bee population gets up. And then, of course, season goes on. We get into our dearth time right in here, July and August. The population goes down. And then the cycle just keeps a circadian rhythm. It keeps. So the deal is they are connected to this pollinating nectar coming in and the weather. It's just all part of nature. And they've adapted to this system for eons of years.
Does that early maple stuff, is there nectar there too?
Yes. Yes. I've seen nectar, open nectar in the frames. Now, some years are better than others. I think it was 2 years ago we had a really early flow. I think that was right. It had like a lot more honey that year. There's a lot of maple nectar that year. It depends on the rainfall, I think, too, that time. But yes, they do. It's not much, but they utilize it like crazy that time. They start using it like crazy for the brood, because that brood consumes a lot of food, and they have to have that coming in. And so this is a throw in here. Small hive beetles, little pests. As an aside, this beetle is attracted to food and pollen in the frames, your supplements you're feeding, winter patties or your summer patties, whatever protein patties, they like that in general. But they also are attracted to certain type of pheromones, especially stress pheromones. And when a colony is under some stress, like they may lose their queen, and those suckers will move in quick and take over in a queenless colony real quick if you're not careful. Bees that give off stress pheromones, they sense it, and so they move in quickly. Oftentimes, they know that the bees are disorganized somehow. It's just nature, But food sources in general, a good strong colony will keep these beetles at bay. This is what happens that doesn't happen, and they just got out of control, and they'll go through feeding on everything they can get their little mouths on: brood, pollen, honey, and they defecate within the honey, and they release a yeast in their feces that causes the honey to ferment and slime, and it's basically destroyed. Okay, so some things you can do to help control them: maintain a strong colony. Strong colonies will keep these at bay. Weak colonies sometimes will not. In the South, it's even worse, but here they kind of fade out for the most part in dead winter, but then they can build back up again over time, and to keep your colony as strong as you possibly can. Beetle traps. Go back. Salt under the hive can be done. The weak link here is actually the larva that comes out to pupate in the ground. When that larva hits the salt, it desiccates or dries out, and it kills it. Diatomaceous earth in the ground is little tiny diatoms or microscopic little crustaceans, and they're sharp. When that larva falls out to pupate, it cuts their body and they die. And then put the hives in direct sunlight, and there's something called entomopathogenic nematodes, which are like little worms in the ground. You got to put them in the ground, and larva falls into the ground to pupate. Those little nematodes will attack it and kill it. And you have to keep, once all the beetles are under control, more or less, then they have nothing else to eat. They die off. You got to put more in the ground. Also got to put more salt there, more diatomaceous earth there if it rains a lot. So that's some things you can try to do. Some people sometimes maybe put their beehives on concrete may help. Some people put them on top of certain types of tar paper-like substance might help some, but they'll crawl a long way to get out. Jamie Ellis actually had an experiment done. He was raising them for research, and he left some lids open, and he came back to his job site down at the University of Florida and saw small hot beetle larvae outside of the building on the ground. They crawled all the way down the stairs to the outside overnight. That's disheartening. But yeah, Checkmate Plus is nasty chemical. I personally would never use that anywhere near my colonies, okay? But that's something you can use if you just read the instructions of how that works. Checkmate Plus was used for varroa mite killing, but it's very nasty stuff toward your bees. It's just nasty. Chemophoss. All right. Beetle traps, yep.
Oh, beetle traps would.
Beetle.
Are all beetles in there? I mean, would
No.
bring them from outside if you put them in there?
No.
You know, like
No. They won't draw them in. Now, some people actually put apple cider vinegar in there. It's supposed to be an attractant to them. That might, I don't know. I don't typically put the vinegar in mine, but if I use them, and I do use them sometimes. Okay, I do use them from time to time. I use mineral oil inside there. You can use canola oil inside there. You only want to put about 1/4 of an inch maximum because if you put too much, it can spill. And always make sure if you're doing some hive inspection that you don't tilt that box till you take those traps out, and be very careful. You set up on top of another box somewhere on a slant, they won't leak out. But if that oil spills out onto your bees, it kills them instantaneously, including a queen. I've done that, okay? So, because I just simply forgot they were there, and I just picked up the box, and there it goes, and it's gone.
Are the beetles attracted to the oil, or the bees
The bees are chasing the beetles and running them into the openings is what they're doing. They fall into the oil and they drown. People also put diatomaceous earth inside of those things too. I think something else they use. That's one thing that I found out. I use oil, but you can buy some of those are disposable. It's really not worth even trying to save them because I've done that, tried to do it before, and it's just not worth the time. These are actually reusable type. That's probably for bait that they use these, and I don't use that stuff. Swiffer, unscented Swiffer little things, you can tack those down to the top and very top of your hive. The beetles will get trapped inside this. You can take them out. Sometimes bees will too, but not as many bees as beetles will. If you don't tack these down, they will pull them out through the hive all the way to the outside. The bees will. So I've had it happen before. Yep.
Top right. So you said there's like in the very center there's a little flap that you can open up to get that center chamber.
Yeah.
What's that for?
The flap, probably to put your oil in there.
Well, see, like you got your oil on the left and the right, but then like you can open up that middle chamber, and I thought that was to put bait.
It might be. It might be. Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah.
but they don't.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. So you hear that? They're finding, research has shown they're finding the Swiffer fibers in honey. That's a big deal.
I didn't like catching the bees in them, so we made some traps out of old CD covers.
Right.
They're about that deep, and you pop out the clips and slide the Swiffer in there.
Okay.
Slide it under and put a string on it and just
Pull it out. So she was saying they take the crystals here for CDs, right? And they put the Swiffer inside this little CD here and fixes where they can pull them. Put them on the bottom board, what you did?
Pardon me?
On the bottom board?
Yeah.
On the bottom board. So that can be used like that. That's a good idea too. Yeah. You probably do. The crystal. All right. So what this right here now is propolis. And what this was right here was a gel. This was a beetle jail right here. The bees will run the beetles to a certain area, and they will build walls around them with propolis to seal them in like a little jail. You can see one right there. And so when you go to actually do an inspection, and you pull your inner cover off, and then all of a sudden you see small hive beetles everywhere, right? But what you did, they were probably imprisoned or jailed, and you let them loose. Jailbreak, let's go. Took off. And so then you take your hive tool and just squish them, okay? As many as you possibly can. And there's a whole thing about that, but go ahead.
Can't small hive beetles actually trick worker bees
Yeah.
into feeding them? Like,
Yeah. It's a video online you can watch. The small hive beetles, because it's pitch black dark in there, right? They can actually touch the bees in a way, and they release the pheromones and stuff too. You see, it's a trickery thing. They touch the bees, and the bees will feed them. They will actually feed them. So that's kind of odd, but yeah, they're just a menace. All right, hive inspection. So, lighting a smoker. This is those new people. There's different types of media: smoke pellets, untreated burlap, pine needles, cardboard, T-shirt, cotton jeans, and other media that you can purchase. I personally use pine needles myself because it's easy for me to get. One of my workers actually has a large driveway lined with pine trees, so I just get bags of them and put them back in my back building every year, and they last me pretty much the whole year. So free stuff here, right? I actually give her some money because it's a lot of work picking those things up, and but it's worth it to me because this other stuff is expensive. You know, cardboard is okay, but it's kind of harsh on your eyes and smelling it. The pine needles gives off a good white smoke. I'm just an advocate for pine needles. T-shirts okay, cotton jeans are okay. Make sure there's no polyester in that, just cotton only. And but what I typically do is, I light my smoker. Everybody has their own way of doing this. I take this, usually some paper that comes from the packaging from Man Laker Day Dant, just that little wrapping paper they use, the stuff, and just take a piece of that. And I'll light that with a long lighter in the bottom of the smoker and get it on fire and I'll puff a few times and get flames coming up. Start stuffing my pine needles in a good wad, and then smoke, or puff, all right? Keep doing that until you got a good white smoke coming out, and then push more pine needles in there, and do this process over and over again until it's packed so much packing in there you can't get anything else in there. Pack it down, but you got to make sure you puff it as you go because it will go out on you, okay? You got a good white smoke, you're puffing it, you set it down, you do what you got to do over here, come back because it always wants to go out in that first couple of minutes. Pick it up and puff it again several more times, and by that time, usually it's got a pretty good set of cools in there in the bottom, so just make sure you puff it that second time because I promise you it will go out, you know. And you'll see the smoke, it'll start having this more of a dark color to it. That's when it's getting ready to go out. But then you puff it several more times and it turns white again. That's what you want. A good white smoke. And every now and again, puff it as you're working your bees. I don't over smoke. When you go to smoke the colony, just smoke 3 or 4 times in the entrance. Not a whole lot. Don't over smoke them. You just make things worse. A few times in the bottom, and then maybe when you do, just pick up the inner cover or top cover, smoke a few times inside of there, and bring it down. Wait a couple of seconds or so, take it off, and then you want to smoke. I'll be smoking in the middle of the hole again, the vent hole in the top, a few times, a couple times, and then pops your inner cover up. Try not to make a loud sound with that. Just like get in there and kind of hold the top and pry it. Now, when it's cold, you'll have this poof, pop sound. That's the vibration. That's not good, okay? But if you try to slowly do it, it might be better. And it's warmer and hot outside. The propolis is goo, okay? So you just kind of pulls up. But you want to raise it up a little bit and smoke a few times in there. Give them a couple seconds, 10 seconds or so. And then you go ahead and take it off and do it. Now, as you work your bees, you don't want to smoke them to death. I went someplace and helped this guy. He smoked and smoked and smoked. I didn't want to be blunt, but he just smoked and smoked and smoked. I think, my God, you're killing me, man. Please stop. But I didn't want to be rude, but I should have said, man, you're over smoking your bees. Just stop doing it.
Can it cause them? I've heard rumors it could cause them to fall queen. Is that true?
Yes. And when if you smoke them too much, they really kind of get agitated a little bit. So don't over smoke. The purpose of smoking the bees is to try to mask pheromones, what you're doing.
Is there a particular time of day to check the bee hive? What's
Ideally, after about 10 o'clock in the morning
after 10 o'clock?
and before 5 o'clock in the evening. Okay? That's right. That 5 o'clock is the witching hour when all the foragers are coming back. Those are the mean ones. Okay? 10 o'clock gives all the foragers time to get out. And see, that's the best time to do it, 10 to 5. All right.
You're supposed to smoke yourself?
Yeah, you can if you want to. I'll use latex gloves still. I'm a chicken, so I use. Now other people don't use gloves at all, but you should smoke your hands a little bit. So if you don't wear gloves, the bees will teach you how to handle them.
How do some people not wear anything? You see them out there, they got their bare hands, their face, they just got.
You should at least wear a veil every time. Every time. Yeah, I mean, I get stung. I mean, it's not like I'm, you're going to get stung. That's just going to happen. You got to just get used to it, right?
Leonard, I've been told that you can become allergic to bee sting at any moment.
You can. Kent Williams has got a fellow. He's passed away now. He was like 80 years old. Worked bees for 50 years and become allergic to them. Almost died from anaphylactic shock. 50 years. Yes. Yep.
Some of the little TikTokers, that's window dressing. It is right.
Yeah.
The Texas bee lady.
They're pulling those combs out and they're letting all the honey put down and then they put the hive back together, let them gorge themselves, and then she's doing it.
Right. All right. So interest hive interest observation, bringing in pollen, bringing in nectar. You'll see the abdomens will be stretched out. You'll be able to tell that they're kind of clear looking, almost like they're stretched out. That's bringing back nectar or water. Orientation flights. When they orientate, they'll come out. They'll crawl up the hive front and they do this little figure eight configuration like thing and go around and they'll come back in. You'll see them coming up. Now, not like scads of them. They start coming out like crazy and they're coming out the front, they're rolling out of that's a swarm, okay? And somebody said the other day, I posted, you see that one? It said bees were coming out of this hive, like rolling out, okay? And somebody said, oh, that's orientation flight. I said, no, it's not. That's a swarm, Now, it might have been a practice swarm, but it was a swarm. They were coming out of there. You could just tell the difference. Orientation flights, you're going to get some bees. It could be several, but not like rolling out. They usually come up to the top. They walk up in and fly off, and they do a little thing, and they come back. Orientation flight. Robbing behavior is a little bit different because they'll come in and they kind of look sneaky. They kind of fly around and buzz around and, you'll see them fighting with each other. And sometimes they try to get between boxes and that kind of thing. And that's usually a full-blown robbing going on there. Okay. But I will show you, this is a quick video. This is a major flow of pollen here coming in. I don't know, it's probably spring, it could be fall, but this is actually real time. It's not. They are bringing that pollen in. Look at crawling in as fast as they can. And then bringing nectar in too. You can see those bees are older bees. See that pollen coming in. That's literally real time, and they're on a mission. These bees are like getting after it. That's what we're going to be seeing here, hopefully another month or less. All right. Okay. Tips, like I told you earlier, smoke in the hive, removing the top cover, like I said, removing inner cover, like I said earlier. Hive tool usage. I use the long J-hook long tool, and then the other one, regular beehive tool. What I generally do, this is my personal preference. I usually go in, I'll take a regular hive tool, and I'll just kind of break the first comb loose gently. You do want to kind of hold it if it's cold outside, so it doesn't pop too loud. Just get it loose to the other side. And I take my J-hook and stick in, and I'll pry up one side, and I take my other hive tool and put it underneath that frame. Keep it right there, and I come over here, and I pull up the other side, and I'll gently slide the frame over just enough for the rabbit over here to catch the frame edge, okay, the top bar. Then I just pull it out, okay? And if your first frame, look down inside the box, and it's basically glued to the wall with burr comb or brace comb, don't pull that one out, okay? If it's open down there, there's nothing much on it, great. But if it's stuck to the wall, you're going to do some serious damage. You pull that frame out, okay? Go to the next frame over and then pull that one out. Then you can go back to the other one and get it out if you need to. I usually take 2 frames out. I usually use a frame holder to hold my frames, 2 of them. Now then I go for my inspection all the way across the top of the box. 1 frame at a time, and then put them back in the same order you take them out if you're just doing an inspection. But if I'm doing a manipulation of some sort, then that's all discombobulated, okay? That's a different thing. But just a typical inspection, you don't have to see your queen. Look for eggs, and caproot and larvae. Just look for good stuff, Make sure that your larvae are white and glistening. All right, we'll go on down. Order frames, bee space. When you get done, make sure your frames are pushed together again like they should be. The bee space is 1/4 to 3/8 of an inch. Anything less than 1/4, they're going to put propolis down. That stuff I showed you a while ago where they made the beetle traps, they put it down. Anything over 3/8 of an inch is going to be usually burr comb or brace comb. That's just what they do. You got to be mindful of bee space. If you leave gaps between your frames, it's going to make a mess for you and make it hard to inspect as time goes on. So this is one thing I wouldn't do. I would never go in the middle of a brood nest and pull a frame straight out like this. Ever. Okay, ever do that. You're just asking for trouble right here. Start in the corner. You're always going to have less bees, in most cases, on one side or the other, less bees. Go to the side that has less bees and work your way over. Sometimes later in the season, like in June, it may be just bees everywhere. I mean, bowling out. What do you do then? Just be careful, Start from the corner, take some frames out, at least 1, maybe 2 gives you more space to work with, less chance of rolling that queen. And be mindful of the queen when you find her. Keep your mind on which frame she was on. She probably will stay there or she may not. It just depends. But I always go back to that spot and try to find her again before I put her back in there. When I put them back together again, because I want to make sure I don't squish my queen. I've done that. Okay, it happens. But that's what you got to do. You got to be careful with the queen.
Would you ever put her in a queen cage?
You can. A lot of people do. Yeah. Or you might even take that frame out that she's on and get a corrugated plastic nuke box we showed earlier, put her to the side. Yes, you can do that too. But that's one way of doing it too. Yeah. You can put. I've had people take queen clips and crush their queen, okay? We had it happen in one of the Kentucky meetings, actually, demonstration. She was going to mark her queen, and we found her queen and caught her, and she killed it. Lady did. Right there. Said, pick her up by her wings. I do keep 2 of those roller-type cages. I think they're JZBs, aren't they? Yeah. In my pocket all the time, so I will put a queen in there sometimes, put her in my pocket, up here. Just to protect her. You want to protect that queen at all costs. If you don't do that, it's going to set your bees back a month, maybe a little less. So it's important you protect the queen. All right, worker cells and drone cells are horizontal. Queen cells are vertical, like peanuts. So these are like drone cells. Those that don't know, they're more like Cocoa Puffs, sticking out. And the worker cells are going to be more flat. And the queen cells are always like these. These will be called swarm cells, which is what we're going to be seeing here in another few weeks here probably. We'll be seeing them. So supersedure queen cells, all right? Supersedure cell, emergency queen cell. Supersedure cells are typically they make a cup. You'll find these queen cups. It's called a queen cup when there's nothing in it. They'll be on the frames here and there. It's just normal for them to do that. But if something happens to the queen, or maybe there's, okay, we decided we don't like you anymore, we're going to replace you. Can you go lay an egg in here for us? So they make it, she knows she's got a problem. I don't know, why would a queen kill herself? Survival of the species, of the colony, right? So some people say, well, they put an egg in there for her, you know. That's still anybody believe that bees move eggs? I don't know. I don't know. I don't know. I don't think they do. You know. I don't know. I don't think they do.
I forgot one of my JCBC queen cups in one of my hives.
Yeah.
There was an egg that they laid, somehow they did get in the JCBC.
Is that right? Worker, maybe it was a worker did it. Yeah, worker. You should let it grow out and see if it's a drone or not. Oh man, that'll be an experiment for half. So those that don't know, only workers can lay. There is always some workers in the colonies that lay eggs. Always a few. It happens, but they'll take them out because, well, they might. Worker eggs are infertile, and they make drones. It's a haploid diploidy system. And because drones only have half the number of chromosomes, and then queens and workers have 2 sets of chromosomes. So that's important to know, right? But so that's a whole new thing. But
Do you remove any of your queen cells?
do I?
If you see a swarm of queen cells, do you remove them or you leave them?
Oh, I usually take them out. I mean, it depends on what I'm doing. You know, I do a lot of vertical splits, and I may remove 50 queen cells. I don't need any more bees. So now, if it was Dave over here, he would save every queen cell that they have, and he'd make a nuke out of it. So, but that's what they do. But he wants more bees. I don't. Okay. So that, yeah, yes, you can move them out the frame. You can cut them out. Put them in another colony somewhere, make a new nucleus colony, or make a new hive. You know, you do a split. We'll talk about that in a second. Yes, and that's what he's going to go over at their field day. Talk about field day. Yeah. All right.
Hey, just one thing. If you do crush your cells, you need to make sure you're queen right before you crush them. That's the one caveat.
Yes.
You gotta be real careful.
Right. So make sure, you tell them that. Yeah, that's obviously. The answer is I do crush queen cells, and if I'm doing them a specific manipulation, like a vertical split, for example, I don't want a whole bunch of queens running around. I don't want the colony to swarm, so you have to crush them or do something with them. You know, but like you said before, you got to make sure that you have a queen in there, or at least save a couple of them before you cut them all out. You know. Because if you crush the queen cells and there's no queen there, like for example, she may have swarmed already, or it might be a supersedure cell. Usually a supersedure cell, the old queen is still there, okay, in most cases, because they have a daughter and a queen at the same time a lot of times. But then if you're having a swarm, if she's swarmed out already, and there's no 3-day-old larvae or less in there, 2-day-old larvae or less, 1-day-old larvae or less in there, and you crush all the queen cells, you may have just destroyed your colony, or at least made your colony hopelessly queenless. Does that make sense? Okay. Swarm queen cells usually on the bottom, emergency queen cells on that. So they'll have a supersedure cell is a queen cup that they'll make into a queen. Queen lays an egg in here, and they'll make a queen cell. They'll replace her, okay? Emergency queen cells would actually be in a worker area, but you killed your queen by accident, so they can take that 1-day-old larvae and modify that cell and bring it downward, feed that 1-day-old larvae royal jelly, which they will the whole time, and make a new queen to replace the queen that has been killed. Okay.
Do you think emergency queens are inferior to swarm cell queens?
Yes. Yeah, swarm queen cells is what they're supposed to be. They were, from day one, fed a good royal jelly, yeah, from day one. They all are, actually, all the young larvae are. But this was intentional. That would not be, you know.
Is there, so what's the difference? Like that egg is superior to, have they shown studies where
Yeah.
swarm cell eggs are actually larger than?
No, I think no.
Okay.
I think it has to do with what they're being fed.
Okay.
You know, how much they're feeding them, that kind of thing. Also, probably how old the larvae is. I guess that a 1-day-old larvae that was in a emergency queen cell
In
would
theory,
be the same as a swarm queen cell, but sometimes they feed a 2-day-old larvae
Yeah.
and make a queen. They can actually, what's the shortest time period from a time, if you were to kill your queen, what's the shortest time period that a queen can emerge from a emergency queen cell? 10 days.
So they can take a 6.
Yep.
Would it be a
Okay.
4-day-old larva?
It would be a 3-day-old larvae. 3 days is 3 days as an egg, 3 days as a larvae,
16 days.
10 more days. So 10 days, but that is probably not going to be a very good queen. You know, it's going to be a junk queen, right? Or maybe a queen worker mix. Yeah.
I got an interesting situation. About 6 days ago or so, before the weather turned, was checking a hive, and there were eggs, there were brood and all. There was also a very recently hatched supersedure cell, and I found the recently emerged baby queen right here.
Mhm.
I didn't find
Virgin
the
queen.
current queen.
Right.
What's the time? And I'm thinking this early. Is that when you're going to be able to mate? Oh, that's. I mean, there's tons of drone come. There were some drones in some of the other hives. I don't know how mature they are, but I don't know. Would they ever just kill the supersedure queen and try again if she can't mate? I don't know. Or do they, when she's out, do they kill the existing queen? How does that work?
She
They
could
kill
be-
both of them.
She
Yeah.
could be staying behind, and they're about ready to kick out the primary swarm.
Yeah. Well,
It's not.
typically what they would,
Two sets.
it's possible that could become hopelessly queenless. Now, she might mate with a couple of drones, maybe not the best mating in the world. The weather's been so crappy, you know, it's just hard to say what will happen. But you know, I would say, when is the best time to produce and raise queens? When they want to, is right. And that's not now. Okay. Another 3 or 4 weeks from now, maybe, yeah. So, that one could be in trouble. I'd keep a close eye on that. Yeah, make sure.
How long they go with
Right.
queens in the hive.
But they can go a long time with 2 queens in the hive. But Dave's found 2 queens in the hive like a whole entire year, haven't you? Before. So, yeah. It just depends, you know. All right, we'll move on. This is a normal full frame of cat brood. That's what it should look like. It's actually probably more of a mating newt type size. But look at all the brood. That's beautiful. Man, that's just amazing. Phew.
You
So-
use Layton's hives? Is that what you have?
No, I don't
No?
have. Oh,
It looks like a Layton.
it probably is Layton's hive. No, it's too deep, too shallow for that, isn't it?
Too shallow.
Yeah. But that's I was looking at front of Billy. Oh, there you are. That's too shallow for Layton's hive, isn't it? Could be close to it. It's some kind of a hive like that. Yeah, might be the mating newt type, one of the mating newts, something like that. But that's an excellent pattern, though. Yeah. Same with that one. So cat brood, this is the typical presentation. We'll have all this brood here. You'll have a little rainbow of pollen here and all this nectar up in here and capped honey. And they know what they're doing because they have all the food sources they need in this whole area here to feed all these larvae before they got capped over. And then they'll start emerging from the middle because she'll lay eggs in a concentric pattern. All right, concentric pattern. And so the middle, this will emerge first, and then just keep emerging, and then keep emerging. So you'll have this big hole in the middle, and then they'll come back and clean this up, and she'll relay this again and again and again, typically. So it's typical. Be mindful of the queen and protect her always. This is what your larvae should look like. Nice, white, glistening, and wet. If it's not wet like this, really wet brood, wet glistening brood, looks dry looking, they're not getting enough food. You need to give them some protein and some sugar syrup or something, nectar, so they need food. So keep that in mind. It needs to be white, very white like this. If it looks like it's off yellow, off color, that's not normal. That tells you got a problem. I always say the cliche is white is right. So if you don't see white brood, it's yellow, you got a problem. Usually, yep.
When she sticks her head down in every cell before she lays, what is she doing?
Measuring.
Measuring.
She's measuring the size of the opening to determine if it is a drone cell or a worker cell, and she will turn around and back into the cell. If it's a drone cell, she'll back into the cell and lay an egg. As the egg comes through her ovipositor area, the ovary, she has the ability to either release sperm from her spermatheca or not to do it. If she does not release sperm, it becomes a drone. If she does release sperm, it becomes a worker or a queen, right? So it's got this 2 sets of chromosomes. That is a miracle in itself that they can do that. You know, lay an unfertilized egg and lay a fertilized egg. It's okay, weird. But yeah.
And that's why her thorax is so shiny, right?
I think that's just her age, yeah, probably, yeah. So, I know, how much time I have left? Okay, how much time I have left?
10 minutes.
10 minutes? Oh my God. Okay, we got it. Okay, so this is important. This is important. There's no way you can teach all this in this time period. Just can't do it. It's impossible. So beekeeping begins in August. Now you've got through the summer with your bees, all right, the new beekeepers. But beekeeping begins in August. This is critical. And the reason it does is because of this ferocious, devastating organism here that has decimated colonies for a long time in this country, in the world now. The varroa mite, okay? They have noticed now that there are as many as 30 different viruses that these varroa mite can transmit from bee to bee. And that's the problem. So varroa mites and their associated viruses is what kills your bees, probably 90% of the time. So this is a mite that's on the back of a bee. And I always use this, they used to call them phoretic mites, and actually called dispersal mites now, because phoretic means it's used to describe a non-permanent commensalistic interaction in which one organism attaches itself to another solely for the purpose of travel without harm to either. That's not the case here. This mite also harms adult bees too, not just young bees. So they're just nasty creatures. And so it's actually not a phoretic mite. It's actually now a dispersal mite, because they're dispersing mites to new cells. The bees are. All right, move on. They embed themselves into the soft tissue by biting the fleshy area between the sternites on the abdomen typically. And they go after this structure called a fat body. The fat body is kind of like the liver in a mammal, right? It does a lot of things, functions, stores nutrition, and also immune system. I'm going to have to move quickly here. So the deformed wing virus in varroa, right? If transmission occurs in adult bees, there's no visible signs, but it's short lifespan maybe. If the infection is at the larval stage, the deformed wing virus A will cause deformed wings sometimes. Deformed wing virus B, which is also called varroa destructive virus in the past, induces damage to short abdomens, reduced brood food nursing, and learning deficits. So it basically destroys their ability to keep the colony going, essentially. And over time, it just demise. Why is beekeeping started in August?
Because that's when you're raising the fat bees that have to live all winter.
Right. Fat bees live about 5 months. Those are winter bees. They're called winter bees. Worker bees live about 6 weeks. And if you don't deal with varroa mites in August, which is when, right after that time period, the winter bees are being produced. Late August, September, October, winter bees are being produced. If those bees aren't produced by healthy bees in the summertime, And those bees are also infected with viruses. They're sick. So they can't produce good winter bees that last until springtime. And that, over time, those bees begin dying off and dying off and dying off. And so what happens, the winter cluster continues to shrink over time. You get this parasitic mite syndrome, okay, from the mites. And then what happens, the winter cluster continues to shrink over time. And so what happens is they have to be able to have enough bees in that cluster to produce warmth. They detach their wing muscles, detach their wings from the wing muscles and vibrate the wing muscles to produce heat. And this heat allows them to stay active and alive, to be able to move the food, move that whole cluster around inside that colony. And especially if they have some brood in there, they're not going to leave the brood, all right? They have to move a little bit to get to the food. So if the cluster's too small, it can't do that. So they'll starve to death or freeze to death, or it kind of goes hand in hand, doesn't it? If you have food there, still, they can't move to it because the cluster's so small, and they'll just freeze right there. And a lot of times in viruses itself, you'll find a wad of bees in the bottom of the colony dead, and a bunch of them up on top stuck together, a little tiny colony, and a lot of the bees will be inside the cells. And what that is where people say, well, they'll just starve to death. Well, part of it was starving to death, but the other part was they're trying to keep the whole entire area warm. That's why they're in there, to keep it warm. That's what they do. But they can't, and so they die, okay? And I can't tell you how many people, friendly Facebook beginners this year, posted, my bees died, my bees died, my bees died, my bees died. Died. Oh my God, it's like a broken record. And I asked many of them, what kind of mite treatment did you do back in the fall? Well, we used Apricot in October, but we used oxalic acid in November one time. That's what I'm getting. It's just not enough. You got to do this in August. Late July, early August. That is the key. Unless you have good hygienic bees and you know what you're doing with brood breaks and are expert at it, you're probably going to treat your bees. Okay? I can just tell you, you're going to have to do it. They will die. Now, sometimes they get through the first winter time and make it to springtime. Usually 2 years, they'll probably die on you. Eventually they will. It just happens. And you can do everything you possibly can to stop that from happening, and they can still die on you. I lost 3 colonies this year. 2 were double stacked nukes, and 1 was a regular size colony. I don't know why it died. One of them I know why it died, because I went back and did an autopsy on it, and the queen ran out of sperm because they were laying drones, and she just ran out of sperm. She probably was a swarm queen that I caught. I didn't replace her, and they didn't replace her, and she just basically ran out of sperm, and that's what happened. The other one, I have no clue why it died. It just didn't make it. All right, testing for varroa mites. Easy check is the best way to do it. It costs about $20. The way you do this actually is you want to take and fill alcohol to the bottom of the label. All right. You go in the colony and you find a frame that has open brood and nurse bees. Be mindful of the queen. Do not shake your queen off you'll kill her, right? That's not good, right? But I always take, some people take the lid and kind of go down the frame and just pull bees into it. I always just take the frame, and then once I know don't have the queen, I've inspected it over and over again. I'll shake the bees off into a plastic tub, and then I'll let all the forages fly out. And then I'll take the tub and tilt it up on the end and tap it, and I got a handled one half cup measuring cup, scoop them up, throw them inside the container and close it off. Put everything back together again where it goes. Shake all the bees back in, put all the frames back in, and close the hive up. Come back over here, and I'll make sure the lid's on and good and tight, screwed on tight, and I'll shake it and kill the bees. And then I'll go ahead and take the lid off, and now then I fill up with more alcohol, as their instructions tell you, to the top of the label. But I'll shake this thing for over a minute vigorously, and I may shake it even more than that. And then after I get done shaking, then I'll swirl it. Swirl it. And I'll do this several times, and I'll look and see how many mites I have, 1, 2, 3, whatever, and get a percentage. You know, like 1 mite in 300 bees is, what is that? 1 mite in 100 bees is 1%. 3 mites in 300 bees is 1%. So you want to see low mite counts, all right? If I see 2% mites, actually if I see 1% mites, they're going to be treated. I'll just treat them anyway. But if you don't do the testing beforehand, please, after you get done treating your bees, test afterwards to make sure that your product has worked. For whatever reason, there are some weird things. Temperatures and humidity can have a bearing on stuff as you treat them. Whatever one you want to use, Apigard, Apiliflor. Don't use Formic Pro in the middle of summertime. The new Roxanne come out. It's pretty good. People like it. Some people don't like it. Various other things out there you can use. Apivar is good. It's not organic, but people do use it. There possibly could be resistance to it, but so far we haven't seen a whole lot of that. Some here and there. Sugar shake, we did that before. You have to shake the bees so hard with sugar shake. For the most part, they're probably going to die anyway. Half a cup of bees is 300 bees. Now they got the CO2 method. Anybody using that CO2 method? Anybody using the CO2 method? You use the same device right here, but you use CO2, and it basically makes the bees fall asleep. I guess, I don't know how the mites fall. Anybody use CO2 method? Have you used CO2 method?
No, I have not.
Okay. I don't know. So 300 bees, people think, oh my God, I don't want to kill those bees. You're talking about a queen lays on the average, and that time of year especially, about probably 1,000, 1,200 bees a day. 300 bees is nothing. You're saving that colony, 300 bees is nothing. Actually, it's been shown that a colony will lose 1,000 bees a day normally, just by attrition and age. 1,000 bees a day.
Leonard, the Honeybee Health Coalition has a fantastic varroa management.
He's got,
Never mind.
Randy Oliver kind of puts the alcohol washes as us doing the blood work.
Yeah, a good idea.
Blood kills millions of cells.
Right.
We're protecting our body.
Yeah, that's what you're doing. Keep in mind superorganisms like your body. So same difference. You're doing a blood test essentially to check to see if your blood's got parasites, like whatever. Honeybee Health Coalition management tool, great, good, free. Those that don't know, Honeybee Health Coalition website is free, totally free. Ton of information on there for you. And then you have this World Management Decision tool. You can click on it, get started. It'll ask you a series of questions. You have a super on, super off, what time of year it is. You want to use organic, inorganic products, and there's several things. It goes through and it tells you. Then he has use this product, this product, this product, and then it has videos there to show you how to do it. I mean, it can't be that any easier than that, right? It's good stuff. All right, that's important. Mouse guards should be used. Going into the wintertime, mouse guards should be used. I just use a 1/2-inch hardware cloth. It's cheap, staple on there, works great. The fall of the year, that's what we see, your goldenrod. I got to move quickly. Feed the bees 1 to 1 until after goldenrod fades away. This year was horrible drought. They didn't really respond well at all, just terrible drought. And then, of course, you're talking about your fat bodies. You want to feed them at least starting in late, summertime. Get stores. You want to have those colonies, the hives, full of food for them. Somewhere around, 40 to 60 pounds. Then I'll start feeding 2 to 1 sugar syrup. That'll store this back quicker than 1 to 1. This is how you make it. Most of us know this already. 40 to 60 pounds. Sugar cake. That's my recipe there. I use that. Late season, I add in, this past year, by the way, I added in Ultra Bee at 1/4 of a cup per 10 pounds of sugar cake I made. And I had that and sugar cake side by side. They devoured the stuff with the Ultra Bee powder in it. They devoured it, took it out. They ate it, took it out. They removed it, they ate it. I don't know. 1/4 of a cup is all, and 10 pounds of sugar. I made my little sugar cakes with that. Sugar cakes, I don't have pictures of what I made. It turns out a light brown color. It looks like there. Candy boards, this is a good product here. It's got some good amino acids, thymol, which has antifungal properties, and that's seaweed in there. The thymol antifungal properties, it's been shown that thymol will kill nosema. That's probably why it's doing good. By the way, I had a colony, somebody from Frankfurt area, bees had dysentery on the front of the hive, real bad. Brought the bees up, let me test them for nosema. I did all the crushing and stuff and microscopic analysis, all that. And I saw one organism. It was not nosema. I asked him, I said, did this person feed winter patty protein all winter long? Yes, they did. That's why bees had dysentery. Too much stuff to digest. They don't need all that stuff that time of year. Now, yes, maybe. Well, pollen's coming in now, but just a month ago, they probably needed some protein. You know, at this point, now we got pollen coming in. They fed too much protein and that ash and junk. They can't digest it. So it's a cold winter. They couldn't get out to poop. When they came out, they pooped everywhere. You know, it probably. I asked them, is the colony doing great? So the colony's doing fantastic. I said, they just had to poop. You know, so it's the truth. Yeah. Thing about it is, if they poop inside the colony and they have some nosema, they can make the problem worse because they're actually cleaning up that mess inside. They're very fastidious inside the colony, and they can actually infect themselves even more if they have nosema. These bees did not have nosema. I just saw one organism, a sample of 25 bees, which I thought that was great because they use Apogard for mite control in the fall. So that's thymol, right? All right, you use shim for feeding. I use quilt boxes. You don't have to do that. I do recommend insulating your top cover if you don't use wilt box of some sort. You don't want bees, water raining down on top of your bees in the middle of winter time because they make a lot of vapor. Oxalic acid vaporizers. There's different types on the market. We have the Laura Bees has one too. Obviously, this company has one. ProVape has the battery power now too. I still have this one. Had to have reworked this cord here. Actually messed up on right here, but I sent it off to them and they replaced all this and some other components. They replaced the components up here. Cost $167. I thought that was a pretty good price. So after winter solstice, the brood nest begins expanding. Late winter and early feeding, I use winter patties. And this is what I use. And I make this up. This is actually Kevin Hill's recipe. Actually, he used AP23, but I use Ultra Bee. 3 cups of Ultra Bee, protein powder, 9 cups of sugar. You can read that. That's added in sometime late February or probably, early March sometime is when I add those in. Depends on the temperatures outside. I only used about one time. I said I don't put any more. And I made a concoction up. That concoction I talked about last at Bullitt County, it dried out and got hard as a brick. They hardly eat any of it. So that was a bust. So that was the flaxseed oil mixture and all that stuff. It was too dry. You know, I think if it was wetter, they probably would have used it. But that was a good. The Honeybee Health Coalition has a great nutrition book. Brood nest keeps expanding. Number 1 goal is survival of the colony. Number 2 goal is survival of the species reproduction. I'm going fast. That's a swarm. That's what a reproduction swarm. That probably is 2 swarms, yeah. Too many. Swarming, natural bee trick. Lots of resources coming in, like starting soon here, hopefully. Large number of bees, limited space, congested brood nest, backfilling of brood nest, putting pheromone, diluted negative feedback. I know I'm going fast. We have to. Some techniques to prevent young queens. Queens raised after the first day of summer. This is something listed in a lot of the books. I personally would not want to necessarily have a queen in my colony that's raised after the first day of summer myself. I think earlier that's too late in the season, in my opinion. Reversing high bodies can be done. Be careful to separate the brood nest. So somebody talked about that earlier. He said I had 3 boxes mediums. There was on the bottom medium box was empty. What can you do with that? I said just take it and put it on top. Flip it. Flip the box. If there's nothing, in other words, if you have brood already down in that bottom box, the bees that come up during the wintertime, don't reverse that. Just leave it where it's at. If there's nothing there, you might want to reverse it. I did not reverse this year. I didn't do very few last year, but occasionally you have to. All right. Equalizing colonies, and Dave did that a lot this year. Make an artificial swarm by removing the queen and several frames of bees and cap brood. Original queen needs the eggs. Original colony needs eggs to make a new queen, right? That's like a swarm. This is reversing high bodies. You don't want to do it if the brood nest is here. Okay. Depending on the strength of the colony and if you're seeing whiting, you might want to add a honey super. How many had honey supers already? I have a lot. Room. That's right, room. I did see some whiting over there on some frames for the first time. I did. Yeah. So they're added on. I have a few still that do not have supers on yet. They were too light, in my opinion, to do that. So I'm going to wait. I have a little sugar cake on there still, but I haven't put a lot on. This weather is going to push back a little bit, I'm sure. All right. A lot of bees. Yeah. So they'll backfill the brood nest. This is an early sign that swarm prevention. Swarm is the swarming trigger is starting here. You look at the brood nest and you see where she's laying eggs. If there's a whole lot of nectar in those spots where the bees are emerging, they're out of room. Okay, and that's the impending sign. We need help. We're going to swarm here soon. We're about ready to get started here. Swarm cells. You can make a nuke split. You're going to go all this next week, aren't you? Is it okay to keep going?
Yeah.
Okay. Then make a nuke split. You find this is how I do it. There's a bazillion ways you can do this, all right? Find the frame with the queen. You want to put 3 frames of brood and bees inside the nuke. Remove all the queen cells inside on those frames. This means you got to look very good. Put a frame of honey in the nuke. Put a frame of pollen in the nuke. Shake about 2 to 3 frames of nurse bees in there. Set this aside somewhere inside the same apiary is fine. That's going to be your split. And it works. And you'll just basically, this thing will blow up like crazy. After 2 or 3 weeks, add a second nuke box with foundation. You might want to bring up a frame of brood up to the top with it, like I said earlier. May or may not need to feed. Depends on what's coming in. Remove all queen cells except for 2 best in the parent hive where the original queen came from. Let those emerge if they're there. If you find queen cells, that is, in there. So that's one way of doing it. Like a nuke split, that's all it is. It's that simple. Nothing to this. That's the way I do it. Okay. Some people leave the old queen behind and take out frames and they made add a queen. But I don't do that typically. Walkway split. I'm not a big fan of this. You simply you want to get the frames to go through them. You want to have eggs and brood in both top and bottom boxes. Food sources on both. Take one of them off, put it on the bottom board, take the other one off, leave it where it's at, and then just walk away from it. That's a walkway split. You could consider taking this box away or not leaving it in the same apiary. What I'd recommend doing is leaving it in the same apiary. After about probably 4 or 5 days, you might want to switch the boxes, switch positions of the 2. Let the forages come back, because all the forages are going to come back to this main box where the hive was originally. All right? But if you switch them out, then the forages will get this one beefed up, and you'll have a kind of equalization there, if that makes sense. You got a new colony. And you just add on another 10-frame box of drawn comb or foundation and work yourself into it. That's a walkway split. Swarm control methods. Now these are all individual lectures. Okay, so Dame Marie, Pageant, in Pagden and Snellgrove method, and I use a double screen method. And I'm not going to get into that because it's too long. Okay, it's a long lecture. All right. Supering, basically, like we just said, we put a super on. It simply means you put a super on. I'm supering. Top supering means you put the super on already. You just put another box on top, and that's top supering. You put it below this super that's already on already. That's called bottom supering. Okay. In the Warray hive, you put the super that you're going to have honey in it on the bottom, the box, the deep box. That's called nadering. And that's what you do with Warray hives. You put everything goes on the bottom. It's kind of, because that's where they put, it's kind of weird how they do that, nadering. So, and then they put the food on top eventually. But checkerboarding, and that means you just basically, in other words, if I had this box in that's already full of nectar on the frames, even if it's not capped, I may add a second super, maybe a third one. But I would take the bottom field ones and I would checkerboard. I would just put the drawn comb or foundation between those others. I would separate them out. It's like, so nectar, foundation, or nectar, drawn comb, nectar, drawn comb. It's called checkerboarding. And that makes them draw it out quicker and fill them up quicker. That's a good way to do it. Okay, this is at the end of the season. Now we're in the second year, okay? The first year with your bees, you're not going to get any honey. You might with a nucleus colony, if it's done right, it's got it early in the season, and it grows out, you might get some honey. Usually you don't, okay? But we're in the second year now. We're past winter time. We're already through winter time. Late winter, we're here now. So, but now after you harvest your honey, you want to protect your comb. Now, some people will use paradiochlorbenzene, also called paramoth. You can purchase paradiochlorbenzene through hardware stores. You got to make sure it is paradiochlorbenzene and not the other stuff. What's it called? Not naphthol. Naphthol? Naphthol? Naphtha? Do not use that. Okay. Now people are saying now this paradiochlorbenzene may be carcinogenic. Probably illegal to use in California already, I'm sure, but it might be. I don't know. But this has been used for many, many decades. Okay, it actually sublimes and evaporates and becomes a fumigant, and it doesn't really stay inside the wax. It kind of just gets out of there. You have to let it air out. But moth ice crystals or paramoth, it will keep you from losing your comb. If they've had any brood at all in them, the comb that you save back for wintertime, the wax moths will get in there and lay eggs, and they'll absolutely destroy it. Your comb, your drawn comb is like gold. You got to protect it. You can freeze it. Okay. You can. What's that? Bag it. But you treat it first. You freeze it first, don't you?
We don't have a freezer.
Okay. So what do you put in there?
After the bees clean out the super,
Right.
we bag it right away. Let it get dry.
Yeah. But it's not brood comb. It's not having brood in it, does it?
Some of our supers have fruit.
Yeah.
And, we just you have to get them bagged, put away before the moths can lay eggs.
Yeah.
Now, I've got something I can freeze in
Yeah.
there.
Well, sometimes they can get in there before you bag them, and they can wreak havoc. So you got to be careful. You've been lucky. I know people have done that before. And they've had lost. What's that? Yeah, they have been. They've just right. Okay.
I used to have an issue. I'd stack my frames in the basement, even after putting them in the deep freeze for a couple of days and stack them, and still you get wax moths in there.
Right.
Eventually, but the last few years I stack them staggered.
Right.
And put a floor fan on top of each of them.
Okay.
Facing down and never had them off.
Something can't get in.
That air flowing through there.
Oh, floor fan.
Yeah.
Yes, that's right. We don't like
Lay it
that.
on the top,
Right.
facing down.
Okay. Yeah, it works too. Yeah, they like the air.
All the way.
Right.
If you don't let your queens lay in your supers, the moths are after that protein shake.
Right. They like the brood the.
For the first 10 years that we get bees, we didn't use queen supers. Generally.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
Keep the queen up there.
Right.
After last year, it was such a mess, I'm using queen.
Yeah. It does make a difference. So
Sertan is another product you
Right.
can spray on your frames.
Yep. So I'm going to talk about that too, actually. So, and Billy says he went to a meeting. They now have this wrap. It's a bag.
And it is 12 foot long and just wide enough so you can stack your frame or your boxes in. And it is impregnated with pear moss.
Yeah. So just put up and tied up in a big knot and just tie it off. So that might be something to look at. Yeah. 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 We saw it at the North American Conference. Yeah, Expo. Yeah. Yeah, it's just nasty. But if you use a paramoth, you got to make sure you air these supers out for at least a month. Okay, get all that. It's a fumigant. Okay, just get it out of there, and it does stink, you know. But Certain is Bacillus thuringiensis bacteria. It's a ground bacteria, and there's a product called Xentari, Xentari. It's the same exact product, Xentari, and you can get that. It's made for gardeners to keep off moss off their vegetables, Xentari. And basically, it's a bacteria. When the wax moth larvae eat the bacteria, it kills them. Extremely safe product. It's non-toxic to bees and humans both. But you got to spray the frame. You make a mixture of it, Xentari and or Sertan, which is made for bees. It's expensive. The Xentari is probably half the price of this one here. Same stuff, all right? You mix it up in solution, and you use just a regular pump sprayer. Spray it on the frames all the way up and down, every one of them, front and back, let it dry, and then go ahead and bag them up like you're talking about. And the wax moth larvae will eat that, and it kills them. It's non-toxic to humans and also to bees. Very safe product right there, Xentari. And that's it. All right.